next up, we have the first of our regional specialist leads, Bob Reed, who's going to talk about some really quite interesting examples of good practice.
Okay, Dom, thank you. As Dom just said, I'm one of 3 RSLs here tonight, regional specialist leads for English and maths. They're posts that are funded by the ETF, and each one of us, Claire, Rachel and I, are going to talk about different elements of that job role. Basically, there were 10 of us. There's 1 or 2 of us in each of the regions around the country, and our main function is to support providers, not just colleges of FE, but independent training providers and charities and ACL providers in the delivery of maths and English support. And we've got multifaceted roles, actually. And one of the key functions is to stay in touch with providers and with teachers and to help get ideas about staff development needs out in the sector and help to shape and deliver staff development opportunities through a programme of CPD for English and math practitioners called Shaping Success. Claire's going to tell you a little bit about the network sessions that she runs very effectively. They're very popular. And one of the key functions of those network meetings is to give the RSLs an opportunity to get to know practitioners and also to showcase examples of good practice. So I'm just going to talk through on these slides 1 or 2 examples of practitioners who are doing innovative work in engaging students, teaching maths and English. I put links on all of the slides. So I know maths and English is a big part of my life and for Rachel and Claire, and I know it may only be on the margin of your teaching roles. But do stay in touch with us and do click on the links, because I think you're going to find your way through some really interesting examples of good practice. On the first one, there's when you click on that link, it'll take you to an article written about Karen Gowlett. She's a GCSE English evening class teacher, and she's really making great use of an app called Quicker, which enables her to give audio feedback to her learners. So she's able, instead of typing out feedback, she's able to use this particular app to record feedback for her learners. I know there are other platforms like Teams and Google Classroom that also give you the opportunity to put in use audio feedback. But the advantage of Quicker for Karen is that she works across platforms, really. So that's a really interesting tool for you to use if you're interested in looking at different ways of giving feedback to learners on their written work. There's a free version, and if you read the article that link will take you to, you'll see Karen uses it really well. On the next slide, you'll see there's a link to a case study that features Louisa Hubbard at Suffolk New College, her use of visualizers. They're quite common now, but if you click on the link and read the case study, you'll see she began using them a couple of years ago, partly because they've been used very extensively in the school sector, in the modelling of the writing process. But if you look at that case study, you'll see that she uses them in lots of different ways, not just to model the writing process, but she and her team use them really well to share examples of effective writing in the classroom, to record screencasts. And they're also using visualizers in ESOL teaching and in maths teaching now. So I know they're probably fairly common in most colleges now, but often it's not just the tool, but how the tool is being used to reinforce really effective pedagogy when it comes to teaching. And I think that's what you'll find if you click on that link and read a little bit about Louisa's work at Suffolk New College. On the next slide, there's a link that will take you to an article about a colleague of mine who teaches maths. And he's making a super job of teaching maths online using Microsoft Teams, but also a very neat and effective way of combining different tools. Uses the Microsoft app, the Microsoft Whiteboard app, not just the whiteboard that's built into Microsoft Teams, but the free app that you can download, which is much more multi-featured. And if you read the article, and actually if you want to email and get in touch with Alvaro, you'll find out how he combines the use of that tech to create some really engaging online maths teaching. Uses a graphics pad really well. On the next slide, there's some, I missed the link, but I will add the link later. That will take you to some examples of how a colleague of mine, Liz Wilkins, she works over at Norwich. I'm the RSL in the Eastern region, by the way, I should have mentioned that. So most of my case studies and good practice I find in the Eastern region. She thought it was really important to start from what teachers were actually doing. So she was supporting her. She heads up the English department there. So she spent some time helping her teachers feel a bit more confident in looking at some of the more unfamiliar elements of PowerPoint, using interactive text boxes. So you can actually use a PowerPoint slide as a whiteboard when managing a group online, looking at other features like built-in add-ins, like the add-in that will take you straight to a polling tool called Poll Everywhere. On the next slide, you'll see that there's a link there to one of Claire's projects based in the southeastern region by a fantastically enthusiastic teacher called Finn. And she came along to one of my networks and talked about the way she was using different approaches to scaffold both the reading and the writing process. And she talked really well when she came along to the network session that I invited her to. If we move on to the next slide, Dom. She talked very interestingly about the way she was using Immersive Reader in lots of different ways. That's an interesting tool that's built into a lot of platforms these days. So I just wanted to give you a very quick glimpse really of different tools and different teaching strategies that people are using, that we as the RSLs have an opportunity to see, and we kind of share the practice in all sorts of ways. And just on the last couple of slides, actually, one or two of you I saw in your practice development groups mentioned ThingLink, which is a great little tool, a free platform that you can use to add hotspots to images and graphics. It's used a lot in English teaching. And I just put that slide in there really. Both those images have got hyperlinks, so they will take you to examples of ThingLink resources that illustrate how on an image you could put a hotspot that would take you to a video, a bit of audio, or other links. And those resources were created by a colleague I met at a London event last year who works over in Ireland, and ThingLink is being used there extensively on vocational programs in a training workshop. So a quick glimpse there, a bit of a whirlwind tour around some examples of good practice there, but there are links on all of those slides. And as I said, one of the key ways in which we share those elements of good practice, or those examples of good practice, is in the network meetings that all the RSLs organise within their regions. So it's great to be able to introduce you to one of the best RSLs in the country, and that's my colleague Claire, and she works in this region.